So in case you haven't heard the news, and I'm sorry I have to be the one to break this to you, Ash vs. Evil Dead has been canceled and the series' fate is left up in the air like A Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's a bummer for sure, but if you take a look at my last video where I predicted a month before it was canceled that it was going to be canceled, the fan base is pretty much split down the middle. I mean, take a look at some of the comments and it's very easy to see that. So today I thought it'd be fun to speculate on where the franchise is going from here, because like a Deadite, this thing is definitely coming back. There's no way the Evil Dead franchise is gone forever. Don't worry, guys. The first option is obviously continuing the show on Netflix or Hulu. If you haven't seen the end of the series, I'm gonna spoil it. Basically, it has a kind of defined ending, but it also teases a Mad Max style future where Ash will fight off against robots that are trying to kill everyone in a really cool car with his daughter Brandy. But before you let your imagination run wild with that, I'm gonna stop you right there because it's never gonna happen. As soon as the show was canceled and all those petitions popped up online to get it saved by Netflix or Hulu, Bruce Campbell himself tweeted and said that he has retired the character of Ash forever. He is done. I know this might upset some people since it's the end of the Evil Dead story that started way back with the original Evil Dead, but I really do think there's some awesome original places the story could go from here. The first option comes from John Squires over at Bloody Disgusting, and he thinks it'd be a good idea to take Mia from the 2013 reboot, Kelly and Brandy, and give them their own continuation of the Ash vs. Evil Dead show on Netflix or Hulu. Despite pulling from Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 in terms of look and feel because of rights issues, the show really did go for the slapstick humor of Army of Darkness. And while I think that was good, I'd really like this series to take it back to the woods and be an all-out terrifying gore fest with a little heart set in the woods. Traditionally, the shows that do well are shows like Fuller House or Arrested Development, where they go away for a while and then people really want them to come back. The big audience that watched before when the shows were on TV want them to come back. Ash vs. Evil Dead and Hannibal and Community, those shows never had big audiences to begin with, so it's like when Community was brought back by Yahoo, it really didn't do all that well because it never had a big audience to begin with, and I feel like that's exactly what's going on with Ash vs. Evil Dead. If it was brought back and continued, no one would go back and watch the first 3 seasons, I guarantee it, and then they'd be coming in the 4th season where things would be completely different. That just doesn't really make sense to me. However, I do think John was onto something when he brought up Mia from the 2013 reboot, because that's something I've been beating the drum on for years. A full-on sequel directed by Fede Alvarez to that 2013 reboot. It might seem like a long shot at first glance, but there's a couple reasons I think this could actually happen. When you take a look at that reboot, it was actually a pretty big commercial success. On a budget of $17 million, it made $97 million. And yes, that's a modest profit, but it's a profit nonetheless. Additionally, while Jane Levy has had a pretty awesome career thanks to Fede Alvarez's Don't Breathe, Monster Trucks, and the upcoming Castle Rock TV show, she does keep her schedule pretty open, and I think she'd be pretty happy to come back and play Mia again. Speaking of Don't Breathe, which made $157 million on a $10 million budget, a sequel was announced by Sony starring Jane Levy and directed by Fede Alvarez, but that sequel might not be as far along as most people, myself included, might have thought. Just last week, Alvarez tweeted out a poll that reads this: "Okay, time to ask this. What should I do? Evil Dead 2, Don't Breathe 2, or stop making movies?" And unsurprisingly, the winner was stop making movies. No, I'm totally kidding. It was Evil Dead 2 by a mile. 10,000 votes came in and Evil Dead 2 got 70% of them. This was obviously just a fun little way for him to see whether or not people cared about seeing an Evil Dead 2013 sequel, but people delivered by overwhelmingly voting that yes, they did, and it's awesome to see that he's actively thinking about picking up the Evil Dead mantle again. And more power to him. Both of his feature films were commercially and critically successful, so it's safe to say that if he has an idea of what he wants to do next, someone will pay for it. So yeah, if you couldn't tell, I obviously think it's time for Mia to return. But what do you think? I'd love to hear down in the comments below. And as always, my name is Jimmy Champagne, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.